Guys, and welcome back to another Mystery Monday video on my channel. Just something that I want to address before we get into this video that doesn't really have to do with anything is I am not sick, I am not tired, nothing is wrong. I am just wearing less makeup in this video because I didn't have enough time to put on makeup and then film the video, and I did want to make sure that I got a video up for you guys this week. Now the reason that I am addressing this is because I did post a video a little while ago where I was wearing very minimal makeup and people kept emailing me being like, are you okay? You look sick. Are you tired? Like, no, I'm fine. I'm just not wearing as much makeup as usual. But anyways, today we are back with another true crime case, and with that all being said, let's get right into it. Today we are going to be talking about the Colonial Parkway murders. Now, the Colonial Parkway is a very, very beautiful stretch of highway in Virginia. Now, this highway is known to be very, very beautiful because it cuts through a national park, and it is surrounded by super dense and beautiful forest and nature. Now, because of the dense forest and nature that surrounds this highway, it does have fewer exits and entrances than your average everyday highway. But before all of this took place, this highway was actually known to be a very peaceful and nice drive. But that is until it started to become a place where a notorious murderer would dump his victims' bodies. Kathleen Cathy Thompson was 27 years old and was a graduate of the Naval Academy. She liked to go by Cathy, so for the rest of this video I will be referring to her as Cathy. Rebecca Downsky was 21 years old and was a student at the College of William and Mary. The two women were last seen leaving a computer lab together on October 9th, 1986. After that, they never returned home and soon were reported missing. On October 12th, 1986, a pedestrian had called into police saying that there was an unidentified vehicle that was down an embankment in the Colonial Parkway area. And they called this in because the car was down in an embankment, but it had taken so long for the call to come in because the car actually was out of view of the road. So this person, I guess, was on a walk or had gone down there to walk or do something like that when they came across the car. Upon arriving to the vehicle, police quickly realized that this vehicle actually belonged to Cathy, and when they looked inside the vehicle, they found the bodies of both Cathy and Rebecca. The two women had been strangled, bound with rope, and the killer had slit their throats so deeply that both of the women were almost decapitated. Rebecca was found in the back seat of the vehicle where Cathy was stuffed in the trunk. No evidence of sexual assault was found on either of the women, and robbery was quickly ruled out as anything that had belonged to the women were still within the vehicle. It also seemed evident to police that the murder was actually carried out elsewhere before the bodies were brought and dumped into the vehicle due to the lack of blood that was found within the car. It also seemed as if the killer had tried to burn the car with gasoline but failed because the car did not burn. Police extensively investigated this case, but unfortunately ultimately ended up with no leads, no clues, and no suspects, and just this case pretty much went cold right off the bat. Nothing else seemed to happen, and again, this case pretty much went cold until September 22nd, 1987, when the bodies of two other young people were found dumped along the embankment of James River in Virginia. These were the bodies of 20-year-old David Knobling and 14-year-old Robin Evans. The two had allegedly met at an arcade earlier that day, and Robin had went home and then snuck out later that evening to go meet up with David. David's car was discovered parked in a lot by James River's Bridge. Inside the car, police found 2 pairs of underwear, a pair of shoes, and David's wallet was also found within the vehicle, which again ruled out robbery as a motive. The driver's side window of David's car was partially rolled down, leading police to believe that the predator or the killer was either dressed up as or was in fact some sort of uniformed officer. Now, the reason that they believe this is because normally when you're out, you're doing something, you're sitting in your vehicle with your windows up, most people are pretty apprehensive when in a secluded area to roll down their car windows. Now, something that I just like to throw in here is if you are in any kind of secluded area by yourself and somebody comes and knocks on your window, it is okay to tell them to meet you at a more populated area. That is not against the law. You are totally allowed to do that, and it is safer if you do that. Robin had been shot once in the back of the head execution style, and David had been shot twice, once in the head and once in the shoulder. Now, the shot that was in his shoulder indicated that he might have tried to run away from the killer, but unfortunately he was shot down and eventually killed as well. When the bodies were discovered, Robin's pants were partially rolled down, but it is unclear if this pointed in the direction of sexual assault or not, because it is believed that Robin and David did have some kind of sexual relationship. This murder wasn't taken out at the Colonial Parkway, and it wasn't really close by, but both of these murders did take place in a Lover Lane type of area, which led police to believe that the two cases could be connected. But just like the first case, this case quickly went cold. And not even a full year after the last set of murders had taken place, another young couple had went missing. 18-year-old Cassandra Haley and 20-year-old Richard Cal were both students at Newport University. The couple was going on their first date and actually went out and attended a party together. But after leaving the party, the couple seemed to have vanished and nobody had any clue where they were. Just one day later, Richard's car was discovered parked at the York Outlook at Colonial Parkway, just 2 miles away from where Rebecca and Cathy's bodies were discovered. Almost all of the clothing that both Cassandra and Richard had been wearing were found within the vehicle, as well as Richard's wallet and Cassandra's purse, which again rules out robbery as a motive. Like the other murders though, the bodies of Cassandra and Richard have never been found, but the couple is presumed to be deceased. About a year and a half later, on Memorial Day weekend in 1989, 21-year-old Daniel Laurer and 18-year-old Annamarie Phelps were driving together to Daniel's brother's house. Now, Annamarie was actually Daniel's brother's girlfriend, and the two were going there for the Memorial Day long weekend. The couple was reported missing on September 5th when Daniel's car was discovered near the Colonial Parkway at the New Kent stop I-64. Now, the strange thing about this is their car was actually found on the opposite side of the highway, heading in the opposite direction of where the couple had actually been headed. The fact that the car was found on the opposite side of the highway in which the couple should have been headed in really confused police, and they couldn't determine whether the couple had been pulled over and then somehow ended up murdered, or if they were actually murdered at the stop where the car was discovered. Just like the cases before this, all of the two's belongings did remain within the car, including Daniel's wallet and Annamarie's purse, so that ruled out robbery as a motive. Bodies were found over a month later on October 19th on a logging road by hunters. Now, both of the bodies were wrapped up in a blanket that came from the back of Daniel's car. The bodies were both so badly decomposed that it was pretty much impossible to determine the cause of death, and there was actually no way to tell if Annamarie had been sexually assaulted. But despite not being able to fully determine the cause of death, there was signs that were found on Annamarie's bones that did suggest that she had been stabbed several times, making police believe that stabbing was in fact the cause of death. Now, due to the similarities in this case and the other cases, this case was again linked to the previous cases that I have talked about, and just like those previous cases, despite police best efforts, this case pretty much went completely cold and the killer was never caught. Police linked these cases due to the similarities in all of them. All of the murders had been taken out either within or near a car. All of the murders included a couple or at least two people. Maybe they weren't in a relationship, similar to Daniel and Annamarie's case. And most of at least the first 3 murders were actually taken out near a Lover's Lane type of area, which led police to believe that all of these cases could be related. Not only that, but none of the victims were robbed, ruling out robbery as a motive, and there was no sign of sexual assault in any of these cases. Despite what police believe, some people do not believe that these murders were taken out by a serial killer. Many people believe that there was actually 2 or more killers who performed these murders. Now, the main reason for this is because the killing method in each of these cases is actually completely different. Now, you guys may have not caught on to that because I didn't at first while I was researching, but Cathy and Rebecca both were strangled and had their throats slit, whereas David and Robin were shot to death, and Annamarie and Daniel were presumably stabbed to death, meaning that the method of the murder, or the method which the murderer had chose to take out these people's lives, was completely different in every single one of these cases. A private investigator was actually hired to investigate these murders, and his name was Steve Springola, and he doesn't believe that Rebecca and Cathy's case is connected to any of the other murders in this video at all. He doesn't believe that any of them have any connection to Cathy and Rebecca. He actually believes that Cathy and Rebecca's murders was connected to another double homicide that was taken out in 1996 in a national park nearby. Loli Winans, who was 26 years old, and Julia Williams, who was 21, were camping in the national park on Memorial Day weekend. And when the couple didn't return home, their families reported them missing, and unfortunately they were actually found murdered within the park, having their throats slit, very similarly to the fashion in which Rebecca and Cathy were murdered. Because of the similarities in this case, Steve does believe that this is the serial killer who targeted Cathy and Rebecca, and he does believe that these two cases are connected, but he doesn't believe that they are connected to any of the other cases that I've talked about within this video. Cathy and Rebecca actually were in a relationship similar to the couple that was found at the national park, so Steve does believe that this was some kind of hate crime, which does seem to be a motive, seeing as neither of the couples were robbed, nothing was taken from them, and neither of the girls had been sexually assaulted. So I do think that that theory is quite strong. But despite this, some people still do believe that all of these murders were taken out by a serial killer. Now, I do think that this could have been taken out by a serial killer. Maybe even the national park murder could be clumped in with these killings, but police have actually talked to over 150 suspects in this case, and all have been cleared, leading them to pretty much nothing. There is no evidence, no suspects, and this case has pretty much completely gone cold. In 2018, Cathy's brother actually came out and said that there had actually been DNA that all matched found at 3 of the 4 crime scenes. Now, they are very hopeful that this DNA will all link the cases and also lead police to the murderer. But unfortunately that hasn't been done yet, but the families are still very hopeful that with new technology the killer will be caught and have to face justice. So I think that personally, with them finding new DNA and finding new things within these cases, I do think that they will be closed. My heart sincerely goes out to the family of all of the victims in this case, in this video that I have talked about. It is so tragic to lose somebody in such a horrific and disgusting manner, and I really hope that the killer or killers are brought to justice. Guys, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!